Hey, Previews World, Troy here at San Diego Comic-Con, and I'm sitting across from Mr. Joe Henderson. He's got a book from Image Comics called Skyward, and we're going to talk a little bit about this because the book is in the middle of issue 4, I want to say?
Yes, issue 4 just came out Wednesday.
Wednesday, that's right, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Skyward. Like, okay, first of all, it's an Image title. Mm-hmm. So how did that come about? How did you get into a relationship with Image? Because you're a TV guy.
I'm a TV guy, and long-time comic book reader, and I've also gotten to know a whole bunch of comic book pros just because I was fans of them, and I just reach out to them and start getting to know them. And also Mike Costa, who writes Venom and a bunch of other comic books, is on the staff of Lucifer, which is a show that I run on Netflix, coming sometime next year, maybe at some point. So I've always wanted to write comics. I love comics, but it's also like it's hard to get into. It's hard to crack through, especially when you're a guy like me who can't write more than one book a month because I've got a day job.
Right.
But I love this story. I wanted to tell it. I've been working on this for 6 years.
Oh, wow.
And finally, I just said, you know what? I'm just going to figure it out. I'm going to figure out how. Part of it was learn how to write a comic book script. Didn't want to be that guy coming in from a different medium.
Yeah.
Right. I know how to do this. I'll just write a script and turn it in. I got copies of all these different scripts. I got Dan Slott scripts, got PKV scripts, I got Mike Costa scripts, and I just went through them and studied it and figured it out. Got it all together, and then I needed an artist, and by luck, Lee Garbett, who is the artist of the book, was the artist of Lucifer, the comic.
That's right, yeah.
That was only related to our show in as much as that the character was the basis of our show. Right, he followed me on Twitter, so I took advantage of that and DM'd him, and it turned out that he wanted to do the book, which blew my mind because it was literally I'll just reach out to a pro whose work I love. Yeah. And I sent him the first 3 scripts and the pitch of the thing, and the next day he's like, I'm in.
So this is very much a labor of love for you guys.
It is. It is.
And I mean, you can tell. I got to read, jokingly, I got to read 1, 2. And then I didn't get to read 3 because I was missing 3. But the book is really cool. And the premise here is that you have this main character, her father, basically was a scientist. He was working on this experiment or whatever that was basically going to make people weightless. That was the rough idea.
That is at least potentially the idea.
Right. Well, we don't quite know.
We leave it a bit vague, but basically he was studying gravity in some way, and to what extent and what that means is still a mystery.
And it takes place in Chicago.
Where I'm from.
We jump forward. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And we jump forward 20 years later.
Yes.
And now this main character is an adult. Her father's much older now.
Yes.
But she's lived in a world where people are weightless. There's zero gravity. People just float through the air.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really cool because you guys are doing this whole world building thing. We're just kind of reestablishing what Chicago would be like.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
The Windy City would be like if people were in the wind, basically, right?
Ooh, so I like that.
There you
People
go.
in the wind. I'm stealing that. That's mine now. I said that first. No, that's exactly it. What I loved is I wanted to tell a story that takes place after this terrible event, but isn't dystopia. Yeah. It's actually, we adapted. Humanity survives. Humanity thrives. I wanted to write something about the indomitable human spirit. But I also wanted to represent the tragedy of what had come before. So what you have is this father-daughter relationship. This woman where this is the only world she's ever known, and she can't understand why you'd want it any other way. You can fly. Yeah. Walking, that sounds exhausting and kind of boring. You can soar through the air. Sure, if you jump too high, you don't come back down again, but don't jump too high.
Right.
To her, it's like walking into traffic.
Yeah.
It's just dodge the cars.
Right, yeah.
That's what I do, apparently. I just walk into traffic. And then her dad was there during what they call G-Day, when gravity became a fraction of what it was, and he lost his wife during that, and so it just broke him. He's a shattered man who has never left his place since that moment. And so what you have is this fearless daughter who loves the world, and her dad who wants to put it back the way it was. So.
No, that's awesome. And so let me ask you a little bit about the research process for this. Because I'm assuming you're not a scientist.
I am not. Why do you say that?
But the book is clearly well researched.
Thank you.
And what was that process like? How did you get into that?
It was really hard because, for one thing, gravity is something we just genuinely don't understand.
Right.
And that was the window that I found because I just, to be honest, it was so much of it is born from when I was a kid, me looking up at the sky and just sort of being terrified by the fact that we don't have a ceiling.
Right.
Yeah. That you look up and that's just space. Okay. There's nothing in the way. And so as any normal 7-year-old, I would imagine getting sucked into space and or just sort of floating through the air. And it was kind of amazing and terrifying. And what I wanted to do is figure out, is there a way to actually scientifically make that possible? Yeah. And the answer is probably not. Most likely not. but we don't understand gravity,
Right.
and whenever we don't understand something, that's to me a window for story.
Right, yeah.
And so what I really tried to do is root everything in as much plausible science as possible. Did a lot of research on zero gravity and space stations. Lee, the artist, did a ton of visual research as well, so that we could really try to make it feel as real as possible. The spoilers, the honest truth is we'd probably all get sucked into space and die if gravity became a fraction of, but probably means maybe not.
Maybe not. Right. Did you were you able to do the 0G? Did you do the weightless stuff?
I really want to do that. The things where you're like, I really want to. I've never done it.
Oh, that's too bad.
I should do it for research.
Yeah. Right. And maybe it'll be a tax write-off or something.
I'll corp that.
So you're talking about Lee Garbett or Lee
Garbett.
Okay, so Lee's the artist on this book. He's not here, so I wanted you to talk a little bit about your process.
I carry him.
That won't get you in trouble.
It reminds me of working on Lucifer. We're very lucky. We have an amazing lead actor who anything you give him, he makes it better. That's what Lee is. I write pages, and the pages that come back are exactly what I was hoping for, but something I could never have imagined, because he brings such life to it. And in a book like this, particularly, what you need a world builder for one, but you need someone who can tell emotion. You need someone who can storytell from a place of caring about a character, and you care about Willa Fowler in this book because Lee brings such humanity to her in every scene she's in, and he's a rare talent. You can see it in the artwork. Like, I mean, he really does represent like just motion, which is important for a book like this. Well, like the first cover, like this cover, he just sent that to me. Like, I gave him, there was no direction, no anything. He just sent that to me. I'm like, you just summarized the book in a single image. It's the easiest thing ever. He makes me look like I'm a much better writer than I am.
I mean, and that's what a comic cover should do. So that's excellent. So let's talk a little about what can you tell us about the upcoming story arc? Because I peeked into the future.
Yes.
Right. AKA previous catalog, because we're about 2 months ahead. And you've got a new upcoming story arc.
Yep.
So what can you tell us about that?
So after the events of this arc, which will conclude in issue 5, in issue 6. It's Willa on the run, and it's her exploring this world. So the first arc is all about Chicago and all of these people in a city. And in the second arc, because of the climactic events of issue 5, it's a tease.
Climactic events. There you go.
After that, they're on the run, and we get to see more of the world.
Oh, okay.
So much about the book is, okay, we saw what a city's like. What's it like out in the suburbs? What's it like out in the forests? What's it like on the farmland? Exploring more of this world with a woman who's never seen it. All she's ever wanted to do is see the world. Now she's getting her wish. She may regret it.
Well, that's cool, because like in issue 2, there's a courier who talks about like, I wasn't in Chicago, like I came here.
Yes.
And like instantly I was like, well, what is that like? So this is perfect.
Yeah, and like, I mean, you think about it, in the suburbs, like there's nothing over your head, and so it's a very, very dangerous place. The flatter it is, the more dangerous it is for people nowadays.
Yeah. All right, so what else are you working on? You're of course doing Lucifer.
Yeah.
Like some good news came down the line, right?
Yes, we got canceled. That was the bad news.
That was the bad news, not the good news.
Good news was Netflix picked us up for a new season, 10 episodes. I don't know when we're coming out. We're gonna start shooting it, I think, in the next month or so.
Cool.
But we are thrilled, and it's just been the fan outpouring was incredible. We had 1 million tweets in 24 hours on the show when we got canceled, and it was touching. It was amazing.
That's great. People showed up.
People showed up, and people fought for it, and Netflix listened. And
that's awesome.
That was really it was incredible.
The power of consumers.
Yeah.
And you also told me something else about Skyward.
Yes. So Sony has optioned the comic for a movie. Brad Payton, who directed Rampage, is attached to produce and direct.
Okay, cool.
And so we're just on the early stages of that, because I'm going to be adapting it, which I'm really excited about.
Nice.
Because any opportunities to write this character again, I'm thrilled about. I love writing her, so it's a joy.
Oh, awesome. Joe, thank you very much.
Thank you, man.
Been a great interview. San Diego Comic-Con. Be sure to go check out Lucifer, and be sure to pick up Skyward at comic shops now.
Hey Previews World, would you like to win a copy of next month's Previews catalog? Comment below with what comic you're reading right now, and one lucky winner will receive a free copy of the upcoming Previews catalog.